The Sons of the Dragon naturally follows the children of Aegon the First, King Aenys First Targaryen, King Maegor First Targaryen. After Aegon dies, his sons take the throne and must, like the father, struggle to keep control and power in the kingdom. Maegor eventually dies, and Aenos the son, Daenerys First Targaryen, is forced to take control of the throne and the kingdom. And like their ancestors, each of the men must deal with the issues surrounding the kingdom. Heroes of the Dragon focuses on the aforementioned Daenerys First Targaryen, whose reign as king is wrought with tumult, violence, and crises. Specifically, it chronicles the succession crisis surrounding those who will take up the throne after Daenerys' son tragically and suddenly. The Dying of the Dragons is the longest novella in the Fire and Blood collection and features the most violence in the novel. It features the Great Targaryen Civil War, dubbed the Dance of the Dragons, which was fought between Rhaenyra Targaryen and her half-brother Aegon for control over the Iron Throne, and of the kingdom as a whole. The novella features infighting between the two parties and the violence that resulted from their power quest. Aftermath, The Boy King and His Regents is the final novella of Fire and Blood. It follows the first few years of the reign of King Aegon III, the son of the aforementioned Rhaenyra and King someone. Aegon III ascended to the throne after the Civil War had taken the lives of most of his family members. To that end, there were a number of assassination attempts on the young king Aegon III in an attempt to seize the throne and thus seize the power. The thrilling history of the Targaryens comes to life in this masterly work by the author of A Song of Ice and Fire, the inspiration for HBO's Game of Thrones. With all the fire and fury fans have come to expect from the internationally best-selling author, this is the first volume of the definitive two-part history of the Targaryens in Westeros. Centuries before the events of A Game of Thrones, House Targaryen, the only family of dragon lords to survive the doom of Valyria, took up the residence on Dragonstone. Fire and Blood begins the tale with the legendary Aegon the Conqueror, creator of the Iron Throne, and goes on to recount the generations of Targaryens who fought to hold the iconic seat, all the way up to the civil war that nearly tore their dynasty apart. What really happened during the Dance of the Dragons? Why did it become so deadly to visit? What is the origin of Daenerys' three dragon eggs? These are but few of the questions answered in this essential chronicle. As related by a learned master of the Citadel, and featuring more than 80 all-new black and white illustrations by Doug Wheatley, readers have glimpsed small parts of this narrative in such volumes as The World of Ice and Fire, but now, for the first time ever, the full tapestry of Targaryen history is revealed to you. With all the scope and grandeur of Gibbon's The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, Fire and Blood, it is the ultimate Game of Thrones, giving readers a whole new appreciation for the dynamic, often bloody, and always fascinating history of Westeros. The game prequel series is finally here, bringing to us Martin's massive fantasy tome, Fire and Blood, to the small screen. Fire and Blood tells us the history of the House Targaryen and their rule over Westeros, including such events as the initial conquest and the Civil War, known as the Crab War. House of the Dragon focuses on the dance and the events leading up to it, including the rivalry between Princess Rhaenyra and Queen Alicent. However, just like the TV adaptation, the house makes several changes from the source material in order to make the transition from Christianity into this modern, bizarre, psychedelia. Don't worry, book loyalists. Change can be a good thing. And in House of the Dragon, a grand majority of you work to enhance the narrative instead of detracting from it. From structural differences to missing characters and more, here are the biggest changes to the house. Starting out, the biggest difference is each work's individual structure. Fire and Blood is written as a history book by the fictional Archmaester Gildane. And throughout Fire and Blood, Gildane, yes, discusses his differing sources from his work, especially during the section dealing with a dance of the two. These sources include conflicting reports from septons, as well as the court jester named Mushroom. Each source gives us a slightly different take on the key, and Rashomon style mushroom accounts tending to be the most lascivious and extreme out of all. It will be fascinating to see which course of events he chooses to portray, as it will have to take a definitive stance on some of the more ambiguous moments of this history. An exciting element that comes with adapting to storybooks, albeit fictional ones, is a chance to play around with the historical framework. Fire and Blood rarely delves into scene-level detail, which means we get to add new scenes and embellish events that are already on the screen. So while book readers may know the general story arc, they won't be able to anticipate some of the more granular, character-focused scenes. It's a good way to keep the viewer excited and on their toes, and to keep this adaptation somewhat unpredictable for the newbies. The first episode of House is built around two key events: the birth of King and Queen, and the tournament to celebrate it. Scenes fighting, like the brawl between Prince and Sir, are juxtaposed directly with the Queen, hammering home her earlier point to her daughter Rhaenyra that childbirth is a woman's battlefield. Battlefield of a lady. While Emma's labor is after the tourney ended, introducing Kristen, do not happen at the same time in the books. The choice to bring them together is a smart one. We get the thematic parallels mentioned previously, as well as good. Old-fashioned tournaments, the lavish celebrations, and signals just how important a male heir is to the realm. The human realm, the elven realm, and the realm of the mages. If not, questioning about the lines of succession will fester. Emma's death comes during her childbirth, and it isn't detailed in great amounts in the book. However, Viserys' dilemma about whether to order the birth of the son actually happens to the character in the books is a mystery. Experiences are similar, and we're tending to tell everyone about the still chances to keep sure that we choose to save the House of the Dragon. And here's the proof of the flexibility that the show has given its source material